Mr. Speaker, we believe that one of the worst crimes that a human being can commit is actually a crime against humanity. A crime where this person kills other people, these people that are unarmed, people that are unprotected, people who are innocent, who have nothing to be, people who have done nothing wrong against this other person, right? And we believe that this is a problem that we see in Syria today. That Al-Assad is there, Al-Assad as we know it today is there, the dictator Al-Assad is there, committing these crimes against his own people. The people who are actually his own people, people who are under him, people who are under his regime. So we believe that on site open government, we are really pushing for the trial of this Syrian dictator Al-Assad. So how do we go about this, right? We would want President Al-Assad to be tried in the international ICC for the crime against humanity that he has the crime against humanity that he has committed, right? And okay, let's look at why we are bringing him there today. The problem is that Al-Assad is committing his crimes against humanity. He's killing his own people without any reason, without any logic at all. So we believe that this is we believe that it is very inherently dangerous and inherently bad to the Syrian people because first and foremost, he wasn't even elected. He wasn't even democratically elected in the first place. He got his presidency by inheriting it from his fathers, right? So meaning actually his position there was not the choice of the people. These people did not put their trust in him. And the fact that he's there, right? The second level of the problem is that he is not really not protecting his people, but he's causing harm to them. He's bringing harm to this very nation that he's supposed to be protecting. These people, this nation that he is supposed to be keeping safe. And this dictator, right? He refuses to step down despite the various and very obvious protests from the people. So basically, these people themselves, they do not want President Al-Assad to be there. The only reason why he is still there is because he has the military backing. But the thing is, these civilians, they are the ones who are being harmed. What President Al-Assad is doing is now, how is suppressing this protest that is coming against him. The point is, how is he suppressing this military, how is he suppressing this protest against him, right? He's asking his military, his army people to go and shoot these people. But just because they are protesting against something that they believe is inherently bad for them, that is inherently damaging to their position as civilians themselves. Yes, Corey?
Don't you think that while bringing Al-Assad, during the process of bringing him to the ICC, don't you think that we have to intervene or obviously use some kind of force to actually bring him down? Obviously, it's not going to come voluntarily.
Yes, okay, that we do have to take certain measures to bring Al-Assad to the court, right? But we believe that the possible damages that will occur during the capture of Al-Assad is better for the people in the long time. We believe that by bringing him to the international court, we are actually showing an initiative to help these Syrian people. And long-term protection is actually what they need because because they are going to be in the country for a long time, if not all their lives, right? And how are we going to bring this President Al-Assad to the ICC? We are actually going to ask help from the United Nations because we believe the United Nations is the one who should be protecting human rights. They are supposed to be the one advocating. They should be the ones who are looking into all these problems. And we believe inherently it is the failure of the United Nations to not do anything until this very day. To see these Syrian people die without any reason, even though they are protesting to fight for their lives, right? So, and basically we are advocating that we are advocating that these peacekeeping forces in the United Nations will go ahead and capture President Al-Assad and bring him to international criminal court so that he would be tried. Yeah. So basically, right, our case played. I will be talking about how this sends a message to the Syrian people that they are not alone and that the world actually understands their pain and is going to do something. Well, my second speaker is going to speak about the message that is going to be sent. Sit down. He's going to talk about accountability and how and the message that he's sending to the rest of the world. So basically, right. Well, but when we actually take this initiative to go and capture President Al-Assad, we are actually showing these people that they are not alone. We understand, we see that they are protesting, we see that they do not want President Al-Assad to be back. So by this, right, it is very important for us. And why is it important for us to recognize the voice? Sit down. Well, why is it important for us to recognize the voice of these people? Because the civilians are the ones who are suffering the most damage, and their voices are the ones who are not being heard simply because President Al-Assad has the military to suppress their voices. We believe that this is inherently unfair because the civilians are suffering. Civilians, innocent people who are suffering from things that from all this hurt that that is not called for. So why is it important for us to send this message also to the world? It's so that the people sit down, so that the world will realize the problem here. And after the United Nations has taken their step, right, we believe that other nations sit down. We believe that other countries will also take an initiative to end this presidency of Mr. Al-Assad, right? So basically, it is okay. And on the second level, right, it's very important that we remove President Al-Assad, so that it's very important in the long run, so that this country would have first and foremost stability, and this will actually then give them a chance, the country, to develop and grow. So we believe that the first step for us to help Syria become a true nation, truly free, safe, and productive nation, is the first step that we have to take is to remove President Al-Assad. Then only this country can see progress. This country can see a future and develop towards better days, right? So in conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I've shown you what is the problem. The problem that we're facing today is that President Al-Assad is committing crime against humanity, a crime which is uncalled for. So basically, by bringing him to the ICC, we will be able to send a message and eventually save these people from more harm. With that, I'm very proud to propose.
I thank the Prime Minister for her remarks, and now call upon the Leader of the Opposition to open up the Opposition's case with a 7-minute speech. Hear, hear.
We don't think this is a debate about invading Syria. We think this is a debate whether ICC should prosecute Al-Assad, which is a dictator in Syria. We don't think ICC has a role in prosecuting dictatorship. To begin with, ICC is designed for prosecuting things like war crime and crime against humanity, which is essentially things like systematic genocide and things like ethnic cleansing. We think this policy is actually undermining the legitimacy of this ICC, and also their policy is undermining the role of ICC, which is specifically designed for, and also we think their policy will actually prolong the conflict, which leads to the death of thousands or more people. So I'm going to talk about two things. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the role of ICC and how their policy actually undermines it. And secondly, I'm going to talk about how this delays the end of violence. Now, before that, let's deal with the Prime Minister. First of all, we don't think there is a workability in suddenly bringing thinking. No workability in bringing Al-Assad to the court, right? We don't think ICC has a function in intervening in these nations using force. So we think there is no workability. This debate should be about whether ICC should prosecute or not about invading. And also, they gave us two reasons why ICC should prosecute Syria. First reason is that Al-Assad is not democratically elected. We don't think ICC's goal is to prosecute dictatorship, because dictatorship is everywhere. We're thinking the overwhelming majority of countries in the Middle East or Africa do not have like electoral mechanism. Does have like dubiously democratic system. Like if the ICC like starts prosecuting these nations, not only is this like undermine the legitimacy of ICC, but also it removes like it moves these countries away from the ICC, which actually undermines the function of the ICC. And also, they talked about Al-Assad is using military to suppress protesters. Look. We say this is not, what we say is that this is not unique to Syria, right? Because like in sovereign states, sometimes it is necessary to suppress protesters in order to sustain the security of the whole nation. We think that China, like this, like suppress protesters, like in Tiananmen incident, or like protesters, like this suppressed, like even in countries like the United Kingdom or like other countries. So we don't think this like using military to suppress protesters is a good enough reason to prosecute this Al-Assad as a foreign crime against humanity. We don't think like right to democratic government is actually related to this right to humanity. So now let's talk about the ICC. First of all, we think that the role of the ICC is limited to the things that have the international consensus. So what we say is that like many dictatorship states or like many dubiously democratic states, they agree that it is wrong. It is wrong like when you commit like, systematic genocide, when you commit ethnic cleansing. So this is why like many like dubiously democratic countries signed up to the ICC, such as countries like Congo, Zambia, like UAE, Uganda, and these kinds of states. But like when we like suddenly start to prosecute dictators, which doesn't have like committed like any systematic genocide or like any systematic ethnic cleansing, we don't think like this is. We don't think that this is gonna like bring about like good result, because after taking this proposal, this ICC will be seen as an instrument of Western influence, which is trying to spread democracy to the entire society. So this policy means like two things. First of all, ICC loses support from these nations which have a dubiously democratic system, like countries that I mentioned are in the status quo helping like ICC by like providing evidence for prosecuting like real genocide or like real ethnic cleansing, right? Like by like providing evidence for this providing the evidence of like systematic genocide by like extraditing these people to prosecute this ICC. So we believe that this will actually undermine this function of ICC. And also what we say is that this policy also undermines the legitimacy of ICC, because like I said, it will be seen as an instrument of Western influence. And given that ICC does not have any like binding mechanism, does not have any enforcement mechanism, we believe that this policy actually moves these member states away from the ICC. Like even
Don't you think the ICC not stepping in to help a country which is being oppressed? Don't you think the ICC not stepping in actually undermines this legitimacy which you say needs to be defended?
We don't think. First of all, ICC cannot step in because they don't have a force. But secondly, we believe that ICC actually delays the end of violence. That's what I'm going to explain. First of all, like after taking this policy makes Al-Assad unlikely to surrender, or unlikely to have negotiation with these protesters, because once he himself surrenders, they will be prosecuted by ICC right away, right? So this means that Al-Assad like tries to stick to the status quo as much as possible, trying to counter these protesters in a more brutal way. We think this actually prolongs the conflict and exacerbates the conflict. So we believe that the number of casualties of this uprising will increase after taking this proposal, because ICC suddenly says that countries will try to prosecute Syria. Look, under the status quo, we are implementing measures. We are pressuring Syria to stop this violence. Countries like EU or Turkey is sanctioning these Arab dictator. And we think this is going well. And actually, countries like Russia or China who initially supported Syria are having this hard stance. And given that, we think that this policy actually undermines and sets back this movement towards the end of violence in Syria. All these reasons we are very proud of.
I thank the Leader of the Opposition for his remarks, and now call on the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the government's case in a 7-minute speech. Here.
Mr. Speaker, we have a problem going on in Syria right now of innocent civilians being fired on by the military, by the people, the military, who are the people who are supposed to protect them from harms that can come to them. And Mr. Speaker, this military in Syria is actually going against their mandate of what they're supposed to do. Opening opposition came up and told us that the ICC is only meant to stop genocide and ethnic cleansing. Mr. Speaker, we feel as opening government that the ICC, it is their mandate to stop atrocities, to stop, to bring people who commit atrocities to justice, to bring people who commit war crimes to justice, Mr. Speaker, because it is a level platform, it is a neutral, it is a neutral thing, and Syria, being signatories to the ICC, do fall underneath the ICC's jurisdiction. Their case of saying that this doesn't fall under jurisdiction, ICC jurisdiction falls flat. Because as my Prime Minister has already come up and told us, is that these civilians, the Syrians, they are protesting against this oppressive regime of Al-Assad, and that they are being fired on by the military with live ammunition. Unarmed civilians are being fired on with live ammunition. They are being maimed, they are being wounded, they are being killed in the thousands, Mr. Speaker. And we feel that the international community is ignoring this. So, Mr. Speaker, what side opening opposition has just come up? All they have said to us is that this is not a crime against humanity. I mean, no, it is not a crime against humanity. It is not atrocity. They say that dictatorship is everywhere. Dictatorship being everywhere does not mean that dictatorship is okay. Mr. Speaker, so what I want to sit down. So what I'm going to talk to you about today, Mr. Speaker, is how Al-Assad being brought to trial by the ICC actually furthers the legitimacy of the ICC. I'm going to talk about the accountability of the ICC to the Syrian people as they are signatories to the ICC. I'm also going to talk about the message of inconsistency, a message of weakness which the ICC is sending not only to the Syrian people but to the world.
Before you answer,
yes.
you talked about the gradual process of allowing the United Nations to intervene and bring Al-Assad back. But the United Nations Security Council already tried to pass a resolution China and Russia vetoed. How are you going to persuade China and Russia to agree to this intervention?
We feel, Mr. Speaker, that the United Nations, it is their responsibility to protect the weak, to protect the people of the world who can't protect themselves. And we feel that the United Nations does need to do something. The United Nations cannot just simply set aside and not do anything, Mr. Speaker. We feel that, onto my point of the legitimacy of the ICC, Mr. Speaker, we can't, Mr. Speaker, what we have right now is the ICC being there and people aren't seeing enough results. People aren't entirely satisfied with the ICC's results, Mr. Speaker. Because a lot goes on, a lot of bad goes on in the world. A lot of evil goes on in the world, and the ICC does not have a hand that can reach that can reach and stop these things. So we feel that people question the legitimacy of the ICC because the ICC is set up to bring troublesome dictators to justice, to bring people who commit atrocities, crimes against humanity, genocide, as was also mentioned by opening opposition. We feel that this is the mandate of the ICC. So if the ICC does not fulfill its purpose, ICC does not do this, it is a failure on the part of the ICC, and they are not fulfilling their function, Mr. Speaker, and this harms the legitimacy of the ICC. Countries that are not signatories to the ICC at the moment now question, why should we become signatories to the ICC when the ICC isn't doing what it's supposed to do? How does it benefit us? That's something that the ICC needs to do. So, Mr. Speaker, on to the point of the accountability to the Syrian people who are signatories to the ICC and the accountability to the people of the world. The Syrian people are there, Mr. Speaker. They have their plight over here. They're tired of this person who has been crashing them down. A person who is not democratically elected, who inherited their presidency from his father, Mr. Speaker. These people don't want Al-Assad anymore, Mr. Speaker. And we feel that if the Syrian people don't want Al-Assad anymore, then he should go. Peaceful protests are being, as we've said, peaceful protests are being crushed with military force. The message that the accountability to the people of the world is basically us observers of looking at what's happening in the situation of Syria, Mr. Speaker. We feel that we need to see. We feel that the ICC is also accountable to us, that they need to do something, because we feel that we are not happy with the things that we see on the news, Mr. Speaker, of civilians being fired on, of protesters being crushed, and people being, unarmed civilians being murdered. We feel that the ICC should do this to enhance their legitimacy and accountability, Mr. Speaker. As we've seen in the Arab Spring, people have risen up against their dictators. Some people were able to overthrow their dictators without the use of external force, but there are those who have needed help from external forces to come to get rid of these dictators. And we feel that once these dictators are gotten rid of, once they've been taken out of power, they should be brought to trial so that they should answer for their crimes of why they've oppressed their people. And with that, Mr. Speaker, we are proud to propose.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for his remarks, and now call upon the Deputy Leader of the Opposition to close out the first half of this round and make
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The crucial problem with the opening government is that they're not actually reading the news, ladies and gentlemen. The fact is, there are many kind of mechanisms which are trying to counter this problem. For example, November 16, 2011, there has been movement by an Arabic meeting to confirm suspicion on Syria. For example, again in November, there has been movement for Turkey to cancel and sanction Syria to a certain extent. So the West is not doing anything, cannot be enough of a reason to do it. And even though they tried to explain like this great thing that human rights is important, they never actually gave us a single line mechanism of how we're able to sell people at the end of the day. So really those two problems is enough a reason for opening government to lose. But having that confirmed, I'm going to give you three issues. First of all, I'm going to explain how I'm going to rebut to their case about this democracy and etc., why we have to help the people, etc. Second, I'm going to explain how the status quo mechanism is coping to a certain extent, why persecution solely is not necessary. Third, I'm going to explain long-term implications this proposal is going to bring about. Rebuttals, 3 rebuttals. Firstly, they said Syria has conceded to enter why these countries have no right. I don't think that is the case, because the only time where International Criminal Court can come in and prosecute is when there's absolute genocide or massacre. So conceding does not actually engage with us in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully the member will come up with a better answer. The thing is, there has to be total genocide and massacre which shocks the conscience of humanity in absolute manner. We accept to a certain extent that Syria is not a state of undesirable state, but that does not mean the West can simply invade and deep within these nations. Isn't that what they said? There's no democratic elected president, that it's a mandate of the ICC to enter. A problem, first of all, with the analysis is because there are any kind of reasons why the ICC has an obligation to protect democracy by any means, right? If you read ICC's article, point 2, clause 2, it clearly stipulates it's only cases to protect fundamental human rights, which everyone cares about. So I don't think what they're talking even stands. And moreover, even if that is the case, even if we accept to a certain extent but see, it's a trade-off, ladies and gentlemen, against the long-term harm. Ladies and gentlemen, my partner has spent quite a lot of time explaining to you that cooperation is absolutely essential and vital from these Arabic nations, right? For example, kind of extradite or finding evidence requires these countries help. But the thing is, since West can arbitrarily intervene by this democracy or whatever, we'll have less cooperations to happen. An example would be in Kenya, where Kenya has refused to extradite Omar al-Assad to his Sudan dictators. That kind of things is already happening. If we take this proposal by further intervention, there's going to be other countries will withdraw from ICC or not cooperate with ICC. So even if their goal is to protect civilians at the end of the day, how can they do it without the help of the Arab League or other nations, ladies and gentlemen? Even if we can't prosecute in this case, at least you're able to prosecute more people in the long run. Help those people if necessary. Please sit down. So the point here is that you're simply looking at short-term benefit and you're not looking at long-term harm. It's the flip side of that. So I don't know what they're trying to talk about. And they try to say this analysis that, well, the West, their legitimacy is lost under the current paradigm. Well, first of all, we do not care how the legitimacy is going to increase by their policy. 2, if we have more corporations, that's going to increase legitimacy. 3, it's structural. You cannot simply invade and cross over the solar right in the first place. So that cannot be a reason to decrease the legitimacy. So I don't think they've studied international law by any means. No, thank you. So let me move on to second issue of how the status quo is working, because they said the West is doing nothing. So that's problematic. Here's the answer. And so there's no way we can step down these dictators. 3 responses and 3 facts for you. First of all, in November 16th, Syrian National Council, this is SNC, which is an umbrella group of political opposition, has already lobbied Syria to stop the oppression of state citizens to people. They're lobbying Arab League to protect citizens to the maximum extent. 2, in November 16th, there was an Arab League meeting between Arabic nations, and there has been a confirmation of suspension from Syria to that extent. So I don't know what they're trying to act, so they're not really catching up to the news. Thirdly, Turkey has cancelled the plan for oil cooperation within Syria, ladies and gentlemen, because they're trying to de-sanction Syria to a certain extent by consumption. And clear facts stipulate that there are 40 or 50% loss of electricity in Syria right now, which is pressuring the government and has a higher possibility that these people, the dictator, has to step down. So those 3 facts clearly stipulate the status quo is working to a certain extent. No, I'll take some closing.
Mr. Speaker, it seems like you don't know the reality, because Syria's top leading class, including the dictator, belongs to the ethnic minority. The dictator will fight to death if we don't need to win.
I don't think you know this. No, you don't have to very long to explain why solely prosecution is necessary. We told you the alternatives, but you have to explain more. So third, and more we say there is more sanctions from the West, which is consistent with what these Arabic nations want. For the European Union and Canada and Japan is already sanctioning Syria to the current paradigm. No, thank you. So really, those kind of things already working to have a possibility to decrease the power for dictators, where dictators have no longer money to sustain its military and conduct further oppressions. Those are the things that statistically already proven. So third of all, what are the long-term harms? First harm is already pointed out and has never been dealt by the Deputy Prime Minister. So we're going to undermine the cooperation oh, ICC, or to have an international framework to have justice, it's a long run. Because we told you already, the extradition or cooperation evidence of this massacre genocide, or the hearing evidence is crucial when you want to prosecute, right? Because when you want to prosecute someone, you need a concrete evidence, because there's always a law of innocence until proven guilty. You need a concrete fact, and that fact is going to be gone if we take this proposal. Two, this is simply, I'm going to lose a chance for Arab League to create its own cooperation framework, right? As our nations is trying to cope with this problem to a certain extent. As I told you, it's the Syrian National Council or Arabic League meeting, but suddenly the West is going to suddenly come in, even though this effect is not negative yet. So this is going to undermine obviously the help between the West and these, because the clear distinction between sanctioning and our case is that they are not wanting the West to come in right now for this matter by prosecution, right? So that's a clear distinction. We're going to make it clear. So ladies and gentlemen, opening up has never provided us with a single line of reasoning how the agreement is going to work. We provided you with facts, the status quo works, and we told you there's going to be long-term damage. That's why we oppose.
I thank the Deputy Leader of the Opposition for his remarks, and now call upon the members of the government to open up the second half of this round in a second.
Thank you, Mr. and Madam Speakers. Well, first of all, let's see what the opposition has come up with here today. They're basically not grasping the situation and reality here in the very first place. They're talking about very off-topic thoughts, and they haven't actually proven to us exactly in a certain degree. And they are also thinking that if we leave these situations alone within Syria, somehow time will take its course and things will somehow be magically solved. But we're going to prove to you that the situation in Syria is so different because the regime is actually dependent on the future and survival of an ethnic minority, which is actually a great incentive for them to clench their teeth and fight to the death with no other soft power incentives or pressures they have mentioned, which that does not work. So, as our extension, we'll talk to you about why trials are a great solvency to actually tackling this issue and the two benefits that it could bring. So, but before I go on to the extensions, let me please rebut some of the points made by the government team. First of all, they're trying to question whether the case of Syria is a humanitarian crisis or not. No. Well, let's look at this. In a week, 26 people were dead because they were protesting against. Well, usually a government, when they protest, they meet them with open arms, not open fire. People were killed in this situation, and if that's not a humanitarian crisis, what is? That is the question that is being proposed here. And also, they didn't say, they said the ICC does not have an obligation, nor does it have the power to. Well, first of all, the ICC, well, it's made to catch those bad boys. I say, if you're made for something, I call that an obligation. That's exactly why you're made in the very first place. So it does have an obligation, in fact. And also, it does not have power. It's true, because they're made to actually try these people. The trials are made there, but the process of catching them are made in the process of militaries are made in very different aspects, such as many other military actions that we've seen so far. No, thank you. And also they said, lobbying, Arabic meetings, Turkey canceling, yes, those pressures, we have proven to you that ethnic minority is the survival of an ethnic group. Those things will not work. We're going to have to take a different perspective, which is trial. And so that leads us on to, thank you, our extensions, which will be made on the next no thank you, no thank you, no thank you. This will be made in 3 levels of analysis. First of all, what's so specific about the case of Syria? Second, why does trial make this a better situation? And third, why would it be better for the future?
40 plus.
Well, yes.
The ICC specifically states that it only tries someone whose origin country does not have the capacity to have a trial at that country. Why does Syria not have the capacity to have a trial?
Because the situation itself is that they're not actually talking with the citizens in the very first place. Because they said the citizens do not know why they're being oppressed, so they act against it. The government sees that as a threat to their survival, so they attack them. There is no room for a communication to be made. So that is not an atmosphere for trial, so that's why we're going to make a thank you. Now, the first level. What's so specific about the case of Syria? I'm going to elaborate on this. Unlike other nations, the fight isn't simply about carrying on a regime. It's actually about the survival of an ethnic minority. As our whip has proven to you in his POI, we're looking at a specific case when the regime is down. The whole ethnic race is going to be discriminated at least, or going to be killed in the very worst. We're looking at at a very definite crisis where both sides have a tight incentive to actually clench on and never end this fight. So other measures such as pressures, incentives, though they do not work because it's directly linked to the survival of an entire ethnic race. So this is the core incentive that holds this case and makes Syria such a different perspective. Now, the second level of analysis, and the reason why Syria is happening because the citizens are being oppressed because they do not know the reason why they do not know that they are ethnic minority trying to actually work for their survival. So the vicious circle starts because they do not have any information circulating amongst them. So that leads on to my second level of analysis, then why trial? Well, first of all, it provides as a great incentive for dictators or dictatorial regimes to actually step down in a more agreeing towards a way, because the definition of trial is because criminals have basic rights. Of course, they're not the nicest people on earth, but they deserve at least the minimum amount of protection. And the ICC, as having clearly been mentioned in the debate, it does work to actually punish those dictators. But another aspect is that it also works to actually protect these people from being violated of their basic human rights. So trials actually secure the basic rights of dictators. If not, the dictators know that without trials, they're going to be just brought down, bloodied up, and maybe just thrown away. So trials are actually ensuring a certain minimum degree of protection towards these dictators, as we can see in the status quo, which is an incentive for them to actually step down within the status quo, because it gives them a lawyer, and the trial itself is men are equal in front of law. That is the incentive that we are looking for within the solvency of trials. Now, the second aspect we're talking about, it opens a window to actually gather information. You see, the main problem in Syria that we're talking about is that the communication between the citizens and the regime has not been made, so they do not know why they're being oppressed, and the bloody fight goes on. So the trial